Happy science teaches that about 70% of all illnesses are most likely caused by spiritual disturbances. But this depends on illnesses, and we cannot make sweeping generalizations. As the physical body belongs to this world, it can sometimes suffer breakdowns in a worldly sense. For example, it could suffer from physical injuries or become incapacitated from playing sports. Anyone would certainly be injured if he or she falls from a high place. And those who have a badly balanced diet will damage their internal organs. If, on top of that, they do not do enough exercise, they will eventually get out of condition. People can become sick like this for worldly reasons, according to the general rules of this world. There are also lifestyle diseases, such as developing diabetes as a result of consuming too much sugar. Nowadays, there is also metabolic syndrome. There are various indices for this, such as abdominal circumference of 90 centimeters or more for women and 85 centimeters or more for men, high blood pressure, and other guidelines that need to be taken caution. Our lifestyles have become more affluent, but at the same time, these kinds of new illnesses have scientifically emerged. To a certain extent, these symptoms can be observed in light of the rules of this world, and therefore it is possible to do something about them in a worldly way. If you consume too much food and beverage that are causing many people to suffer from illnesses, or if you lead a lifestyle that can make you ill, it is only natural they would become more vulnerable to illnesses. You need to have this kind of worldly wisdom and improve what needs to be improved. For example, people who consume excessive alcohol tend to fall ill, and heavy smokers are prone to illnesses too. In this way, bad health has different causes. Worldly factors too can cause illnesses, so if you want to avoid becoming ill, you need to make improvement in worldly aspects as well. Nonetheless, modern medicine is not omnipotent. Since doctors need to provide some kind of explanation to an ailment, they very often deal with illnesses by giving it some kind of name and telling the patient to take some medicine for the time being. Medical science is still at a stage where more than 50% of it is superstition. It seems to me that many of doctors' treatments involves providing a name to an improbable illness or dosing the patient with medicine that does not work. Looking at the patients' lives, some are suffering a sustained, stubborn illness, or an illness that has a profound influence on their entire lives. In such cases, in particular, it is very common that the reasons behind these illnesses are not confined to worldly factors. People create a life plan before they reincarnate into this world. Some may draw up an entire plan by themselves, but in most cases, they receive guidance from outside powers. In recent years, the spirit world has also modernized. In some areas, the spirits will watch their prospective life in a type of theater, as depicted in one of the happy science movies, The Laws of Eternity. There are also old-style areas in the spirit world, and things are somewhat different there. Apparently, past lives are revealed rather specifically in this past life regression therapy. They can specify which eras they previously lived, and what their names were, and the kind of lives they led and how they died. If we examine these cases extensively, we will find that in many cases, the causes of illnesses that cannot be explained with modern medical science are found in past lives. And it is reported that once these facts are known and the patient accepts and understands them, the symptoms rapidly improve and disappear. This is actually due to a kind of dissolution of karma. The symptoms disappear when the patient becomes aware of why such symptoms appeared. As this has happened repeatedly, we can assume that such phenomena do exist. This is a medical approach, and in religious terms, it corresponds to the practice of self-reflection. In other words, once you grasp the tendencies of your soul through meditation and self-reflection, and reflect upon the causes of your illness, the symptoms will start to improve. You can find it through self-reflection by contemplating on the possible causes for a particular illness. There are many experiences of the law of karma being confirmed in the religious field and also appears very distinctly in the medical field as well, through the above-mentioned approach. The law of karma is usually apparent in the form of atoning for past lives. For example, if someone abused or killed others through violence in a previous life, it is often the case that he or she will in turn be abused or killed in this life. In other words, if someone caused physical damage to others by the use of violence, like breaking and severing their arms or legs, there is an extremely strong possibility that he or she will suffer the same disability in this lifetime. The same is true with family problems. There are many wives who suffer domestic violence from their husbands, but when such marital relations continue, sometimes the situations reverse in the next life. In other words, the violent husband becomes the one that is abused, and the wife becomes the abuser. The same goes for parent-child relationships. Sometimes a child who is abused by his or her parent is born as the parent in this life, and the parent is born as his or her child, so the tables are turned. There's also the issue of parent-child murders. If hypnotic regression is performed to a parent who murdered a child, or to a child who murdered a parent, it often becomes evident that the role is being reversed in a previous life. It is indeed terrifying, but the law of atonement emerges almost perfectly. If you think about this in terms of the law of compensation, you'll be able to understand. So there are two possibilities: being placed in exactly the same situation or in the opposite situation. And those who make the same mistake again every time they are given a chance will be placed in the opposite situation. Another element that often appears in symptoms of illnesses in this life is how that person died in his or her previous life, which illness the person died from, or whether he or she died in an accident or by some other cause. When some tragedy is engraved in a soul, the soul will be wounded and anguished by it for a long time. This anguish within the soul will seep out even after it gains a new physical body in the next life. In many cases, this anguish alters the astral body, which then manifests as an ailment in the physical body. In many cases, distinctive birthmarks correspond to the way in which the person died in a previous life. A great many cases have been reported where a birthmark appears in place where the person had been stabbed with a sword, lanced, or hit by an arrow in his or her previous life. The birthmark serves as a hint as to how that person died in the past. The same is true with skin diseases. As the teachings of happy science already teaches, there are of course cases in which skin diseases appear as an allergic reaction in personal relationships. But if we explore past lives, there are also many cases where these are related to how that person died in the previous life. For example, those who died in a fire retain a strong sensation of the whole body being burned during their final moments. When these kinds of people are reborn, they sometimes have a birthmark on their skin. It is also common for their skin to develop strong allergies in the form of various kinds of skin diseases. On the other hand, people who died in fire and experience extreme suffering, choking on the smoke, are sometimes born in this lifetime with respiratory illnesses such as asthma and bronchitis. Apparently, when these people have past life therapy performed through hypnotic regression that I mentioned earlier, sometimes the ailments can be healed when they deeply understand that the way they died in a past life has caused their illness in this lifetime. This is truly incredible. To put it another way, the mind is causing the symptoms that appear on the physical body. That is why when the mind, which is the cause, is corrected, the external ailment will be cured. Sometimes the cause of asthma cannot be found in medical terms, but there are cases where it is cured when the patients understand that they have asthma in this life because in their past life they died in great suffering, enveloped with smoke. There are also people who are very scared of water. They are scared of entering the water, be it a swimming pool or a river. They cannot help but feel fear when they see water. If a life reading is conducted on these people, in most cases they have died in the water in their previous life. It would be revealed that they experienced dying in water, either through sinking, a water accident, being killed with water, or dying in a flood. If a person died like this, tremendous fear will remain in the soul. That fear will emerge as a type of phobia in this world. This is why these people are terribly scared of water. A typical example is acrophobia. This refers to people who are afraid of heights. They become terribly scared when they go somewhere high up. When a past life reading is conducted, in most cases, they died by falling from somewhere high. There are also people who have claustrophobia. These people are scared of being shut or locked in, so they're scared to enter a small room or even an elevator due to terrible fear that they will suffocate. If a past life reading is conducted on these people, as you would expect, they have died in a way that involves being trapped and killed. People who were killed in a surprise attack in their past life will suffer from things like panic disorders and have extreme anxiety and fear. For example, they may have been ambushed by brigands while walking the hills, killed by a mugger in a back alley, or a burglar in their house.
殺された人なんかはパニック障害とかですね、そういういろんな不安、いろんなものを持っている恐怖心が非常に強いのが出てますね。このように
I have just given several examples, and in a similar way, if you find something that is unusual and cannot find any good reason for it from worldly causes, or if you simply cannot find any reason, even in your childhood years, very often it is a manifestation of some abnormal experience that occurred in one of your past lives. Please be aware of this fact. As I have explained, there is considerable importance to how a person dies. In this sense, matters like war create karma on a major scale, and therefore it is not very desirable. If you kill many people, or a large number of people die because of war, this creates new karma, making later reincarnations very tough. Although these issues are truly complicated and difficult, the fundamental way to deal with them is to study the truth and have the right views on life. It is essential to undergo spiritual training based on the right views on life. Exorcism requires a certain amount of dharma power, so you need to call upon the help of those who have accumulated spiritual discipline. Please be aware of this as well. Sometimes you may experience disastrous events in life, but try to minimize its effect and make sure they do not carry over your karma into the next life. That is important. When an unfortunate sickness or a mental illness occurs, it is actually trying to teach the family something. In fact, the possessing spirits are trying to tell their descendants that their way of life is mistaken. They are telling you if you continue that way, you will also end up like us. So please understand such happenings in a positive way and take them as a turning point in your life. Make them an opportunity to correct your life, to reconsider your way of life. If you do, poverty, illness, and conflict or strife in personal relationships will also serve as an entrance into the truth and a chance for you to find faith. They can be an opportunity to completely transform and rewrite your life scenario as well as to pay off your karma from your past lives. I will be happy if you carefully consider these points and learn from this chapter, illness, karma, and spiritual disturbances.